What is going on, you beautiful bastards? This is episode 4 of Unnecessary Rambling. I appreciate you all for stopping by, for tuning in to listen to some video game rambling. We got a lot of it here today. We got some monthly rankings, ranking everything that I played in March. We got some unfortunate E3 news and some very fortunate and much needed news or leaks or rumors of a PlayStation summer showcase. So we'll make some predictions and some speculation and some analysis. Provide some analysis there for that, I guess. Yeah, hope y'all have had a good week. Hope you wrestling fans have enjoyed Wrestlemania. I'm recording this on Sunday, so I just got finished watching the night one on Saturday, and I thought it was pretty damn good. Overall, it was pretty good. I was surprised by how reliant they were on their younger talent, the modern era, to go out there and kind of carry the entirety of the show. And then, you know, they didn't really bring out any of the stars from yesteryear. And as much as I love the stars from yesteryear, that was the era that I really watch and grew up on and have the nostalgia for. I think it was like watching, I was like, oh, that's a sign that things are in good hands and that things are going smoothly with the current crop of wrestlers. So I was pleasantly surprised by that. And I was pleasantly surprised by, like, I don't follow wrestling as much anymore, but I was kind of into the stories that they were telling, even though I hadn't, you know, really had that built up investment from the arcs that they were building for months and for years for some of it. Like they were able to illustrate that in ring pretty well, especially like the Usos and Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens. I feel like I was able to really get into that story and not tune into like the big events, the Survivor Series and SummerSlam and Royal Rumble. But for someone who doesn't have like a week to week investment in the product, I feel like they really were able to bring new people in and get them invested in the story. And especially, you know, you're seeing the crowd react, go crazy, like really good shit there. Just all around, like a lot of great matches. That Fatal 4 tag team just had some crazy spots. The Chad Gable suplexing Braun Strowman, all the big dudes, you know, hitting the top rope and doing moves off the top rope, like the Ricochet, like just a lot of high spots and constant fast paced going and hitting those big moments. That was once again a big surprise for me, because I didn't know a lot of those guys intimately going into that match, and like I said, I feel like they were really able to capture my attention. That not being so much capturing my attention through the storytelling, but just through the spectacle of seeing what was going on in the ring with that match. It was really remarkable stuff. But yeah, good show. Rhea Ripley and Charlotte fucking crushed it. I feel like Rhea Ripley kind of has that it factor, that big time star factor. The fans just seem to have a real investment in her character, and she just has the look. You know, she has a unique look, the kind of gothic, but ominous, sort of mysterious look going on. I dig her whole package, her whole gimmick. Obviously, Charlotte can go at a rate that was, when she first debuted, was unparalleled in women's wrestling. And now it's like, you know, you have your Rheas and your Beckys and your Biancas and your Sashas, and like it's crazy to see that division has come so. Because like the last time I was really into wrestling was, well, the last time I was really into it was probably like 2007, but I went to Wrestlemania 32, so whatever year that was, I tried to like really follow along with it for that year, and even at that time, the women were starting to come up in a big way, but I feel like it's the evolution has been expedited just to a level that I could have never expected, even in that little window of time. So shout out to Charlotte and Rhea. I think that might have been my favorite overall match of the show. Logan Paul, man. Logan Paul out there fucking crushing it. That kid is, I shouldn't say kid, I think we're probably around the same age, but that dude is an absolute athlete, man. He just has like the natural gift for understanding that business and the in-ring psychology, and like knowing where the camera is at, and like just little things that it takes people years. You see like people 3-4 years into their career that aren't able to capture the whole it factor of their character and of the in-ring performance, and that dude just seems to have it nailed down, knows how to get the crowd to turn on him in a quickness, gets the crowd's heat, and like he is a fucking specimen of an athlete, man. That dude really can go. It's like, I think he's only been doing it for a couple years, so you're talking about like Kurt Angle, Brock Lesnar. You know, I really do think if he was to dedicate himself to the business the way that Kurt Angle and Brock Lesnar did, that he would be on par with those guys, with how, you know, Kurt Angle in a year, I believe, or was it, I think Lesnar in a year was world champion. Kurt Angle in a year was a clear superstar, and had clear like next level talent. And I think Logan Paul really could be that if he dedicated himself to that business, which, of course, I don't expect him to dedicate himself to that business. He's a fucking multi-million, probably hundreds of millions of dollars at this point. So why would you take that brain damage and all that, the aches and pains that come along with a full-time hitting the live events and all the travel? Like, I don't blame him at all, but he has a absolute knack for that. I think that is for sure one of those things where it just seems like a fucking gift from God. You know what I mean? Where you're just like, I've never done this before. I get in, I do it, and I'm like immediately excellent at it. Those type of things only come along once in a lifetime. So shout out to that kid. He is really fucking talented at that craft, and being in there with Rollins, who, every time I watch one of his matches, I'm like, that dude's the best in the world. I don't know anybody that's competing on that level, and pulling off the moves, and also the kind of in-ring technician that he is. Like, he is a once in a lifetime talent. Really talented. And yeah, just good matches across the board. The Becky and Lita and Trish, like a good nostalgic kind of pop there, with also having the clear kind of the queen of the women's division for a while. I would say, at least in terms of popularity, I would constantly see her doing interviews with Ariel Helwani, and then just kind of popping up everywhere, getting big numbers anytime she was doing an interview and stuff like that. So, and you know, just those segments, so many viral clips of hers over the past few years. So just a good all-around show. I really did enjoy that show, and I thought it was cool that I believe, I don't know, I know Vince McMahon was supposedly retired. I think he came back, but I think Triple H is still doing the booking, and you can feel that, because like, I know he was doing NXT for a while, and all of those, or not all, but most of those people on the card came up through NXT, and it just feels like he has a deeper level of connection to them and to their stories, and wanting them to play out and see them through, and have it to be the highest level of quality that it can possibly be. Also, the fucking Rey Mysterio and his son Dominic totally crushed it with Rey Mysterio coming out with Snoop Dogg, and the Eddie Guerrero theme song hits, and Dominic with the being escorted by the correctional officers, and like good shit there. Rey Mysterio gets him in the corner and spanks him with his belt, and shit. Just solid stuff. I enjoyed the hell out of that first night, and I think that's cool too. Like I said, I only tune in for maybe 4 events each year, maybe catch a Raw, SmackDown here and there. Like, I'll probably watch the Raw after WrestleMania, because that's where usually the biggest shit happens. But for somebody who doesn't follow along week to week, and I don't know a lot of these characters all that well, because like I said, the last time I really followed it heavily was the lead up to WrestleMania 32. So it's been a little bit. And to be invested in those matches, and then like not ever thinking like, damn, you know, it'd be great to see Stone Cold pop up. Like, I never thought that once throughout the night. So good shit. across the board there. I don't think there was any match that was like particularly bad. So pleasantly surprised with night one of WrestleMania. And yeah, I guess we were talking about some wrestling here today too. I'll update you next week with my thoughts on night two, because it's Sunday as of recording this. Need some time to edit it, get it out there, uploaded, and all of that good shit. Also, to do a little bit of housekeeping before we get into the show, I am going to try to really get on those clips. I've had a couple people hit me up in the comments like, look, I love the show. I think you're doing solid stuff here, but I need some of those clips, man. It's hard to tune in for the full hour and 30 minutes, 2 hours, whatever it may be. And I get that. So I'm going to work on that. I wanted to really kick off the show and see if I could keep up a weekly schedule of uploading weekly. I wanted to do that for, a month or so, and make sure that everything was like I could get it uploaded on time. I could find a good schedule, a good cadence, and I wanted to make sure all of that was in line, that I could still edit it, have gameplay rolling, and because I'm using OBS here. Usually I just fucking record it, throw some clips on top of it. I'm kind of tinkering around with some different shit on my computer to hopefully speed it up a little bit. But I wanted to make sure I could learn all of that stuff, because I'm not a technically sound motherfucker at all. But I'm going to get the clips rolling, and so that will be this week. You will see some clips on the channel, and yeah, but hit me up in the comments of this podcast, the full podcast, because that's the one that I'm going to be like checking more regularly. I'm gonna try to just like get the clips up there, upload them, leave them alone, let them do their own thing, circulate, gather some new people, and for the people who don't have the time to tune in for the full hour and 30 minutes, cater to them as well. But I'm going to really be like, for the comments and shit, I'm going to be monitoring the full episodes opposed to the clips, because I don't want to be online, all day trying to keep up with everything. Because if I upload 4 or 5 a week, that's, what I mean? I don't want to be perpetually online. I don't think that's a fun existence at all. I try my best to avoid social media at all costs. I love talking video games, love rambling, shooting the shit, but I don't like scrolling the internet much at all. So, and I'm already doing that shit way too much as is. So I'm going to the comments for this, I'll always respond to, but the clips, I'm just going to kind of let them do their own thing and hopefully grab a couple new listeners, viewers, etc. So that is the plan for this week, and let's go ahead and kick off the show. If you enjoy these episodes, make sure to rate, review, subscribe. If you're watching on YouTube, leave a like, and drop a comment with what you think. Any thoughts on the show, hit me up in the comments of this video. All right, so let's go ahead and get into this thing. And like I said, we're going to kick off the monthly rankings. I'm not going to do a what I'm playing this episode, because I have only been playing Resident Evil 4. I just keep fucking playing that remake, and I love it. I love it, and we'll talk about it in the rankings. But one more bit of housekeeping before we get into the rankings. I will be joining Retro Rivals, I believe, on Thursday. They'll go and, subscribe to Retro Rivals if you haven't. I'm sure you already have, but go over there and they will update whenever that live stream will be happening. Me and Jen will be diving into Resident Evil 4, the remake, and taking some questions, shooting the shit with you guys, and also, doing a deep dive on RE4, the remake. So I'm really, really pumped to get into the weeds with Resident Evil 4 on Retro Rivals channel. So make sure to go over there and subscribe to them. All right, so with that out of the way, let's go ahead and kick off this ranking. So coming in at number 6 for me, I've played 6 games this month, and coming in at last place would unfortunately have to be Chia. I don't think Chia is a bad game, and that's to be clear here too. Everything I played this month, really nothing, I wouldn't consider any of these games bad per se. And Chia isn't a bad game. It's just a game that the actual like objectives of the game were really monotonous and boring in my opinion. And the fun of it is just going around this beautiful, beautiful island that has such a rich culture, and they lean into that so well and really explore that incredibly well. But the fun of it comes from this brilliant possession system that they've introduced here, where you can possess literally anything on this island, any animal, any object, and they have full on, animations and gameplay that differs from animal to animal, different little abilities and movements, and it's really shocking. I can't imagine how much work went into getting that running. So for that alone, the game definitely deserves to be applauded. But the getting to the next moment of the story, I did find to be a little bit tedious, and that's unfortunate because there's a lot of good parts surrounding Chia. So I would say if you're going to play this, pick it up just for the wonder of it. Pick it up to have a free form, unrestricted experience, and don't even think about getting to the next like linear path of the game. Just explore this crazy, beautiful open world and then go possess a bunch of shit. That's really the fun of the game. So number 6, Chia. Number 5, Spider-Man Web of Shadows. First time ever playing this on the 360, and this really harkened back to an older era of Spider-Man games to me, like not even PS2, more like PS1, with like having all these different villains popping up, a story that really doesn't have any connective tissue, but it's so fun to just engage with, making the different decisions, the good or evil Spider-Man path that you can take, having Wolverine pop up into the game. Wolverine's like my favorite superhero of all time, so there's of course going to be that nostalgia drip there. And the open world swinging around is a blast. I think it's mechanically sound. There's the cool, like, I believe you press Y and then Y again right before you're about to hit the enemy, and you like catapult off of them. And there's like some interesting mechanics that were introduced in this game, and like your special abilities. It's fun to mess around with. There's just not a lot to chew on narratively, which I really didn't mind. It was a simple, kind of, cheesy, campy, old school superhero narrative. And I was really into it. It's, like I said, very, very simplistic, but really fun with some cool mechanics. I did not dislike Spider-Man Web of Shadows at all. Coming in at number 4 is going to be Scars Above. And Scars Above is a third person, definitely Returnal inspired title, where and also using some Souls elements in there as well, with like the little bonfires, but they call it pillars in Scars Above. But it's just a cool sci-fi shooter with a surprisingly gripping narrative at the beginning and the end. The middle, not a lot going there, but you're exploring this seemingly unexplored, unidentified planet after a crazy occurrence happens, as you're like this member of a NASA-esque team, and you kind of black out. You land on this mysterious planet. You're exploring, trying to find your crewmates, and the gameplay in Scars Above is really damn fun. You have a bunch of different abilities, like you can throw out a hollow projector and you send the enemy towards like this pool of ice, and you shoot the damn ice with your fire gun. It melts, the enemies like stuck in this fucking pool of ice, and then you shatter, shoot him, he shatters to pieces. Like, it's just it has a lot of fun mechanics and a lot of fun abilities that you get to use, with some cool puzzle solving elements and kind of mild Metroidvania elements towards the back end of the game. I dug the shit out of Scars Above. It's not like a AAA quality, nail biter narrative experience, but I will say the narrative is a lot better than you would expect, and the gameplay is just really fun. So yeah, Scars Above coming in at number 4. Number 3, WWE 2K23. I think that this is absolutely a step in the right direction. I think 2K22 was a huge step in the right direction as well, but this just corrects a lot of the errors from 2K22. You know, the My Career mode or the My Rise mode, whatever they're calling it now, I think is so much better in 2K23 than it was in 22. Like, night and day. This is so much better with long-term storytelling, these big payoffs, these big moments. Characters that were created just for this story that are voiced well, and a good, solid story that you can get behind. And the gameplay, it continues over from 2K22 with just a really, really, really strong moment-to-moment gameplay that's really what keeps you there. But having the story in those in-between moments, it gets you further invested into what's going on. The GM mode, I still think, has a lot that needs to be ironed out, needs to be worked on. But the actual the My Rise mode, that's usually why I'm there for wrestling games, to get into those story modes. And that My Rise mode is really good. Both the male and female My Rise mode, 2 thumbs up on both of those. Really strong. Number 2, Alpha Protocol. This game is fucking excellent. It bums me out that it got panned critically when it released. It's just such a good video game. A good ass action RPG developed by Obsidian. So it's leaning into the narrative 100%, leaning into the decision making 100%. Like, that's really the main strength of Alpha Protocol. Giving you this character, Michael Thornton, and allowing you to make the decisions that you want to make as you feel betrayed by your government, potentially, or the agency that you're working for within the government, and you meet some shady characters along the way, but you kind of aren't 100% sure how much of their shadiness was propaganda from the company you worked for before, and the information that they relayed to you. So you're developing these relationships with a bit of skepticism for each person you run into, but the more you get to know them, some of the people turn out to be, not as bad as expected, and they really have your back. So you can, lean on them a little bit for critical missions, and get information for black market trade, and get information to, handle missions. Like, you can use some of their soldiers for missions to help you out with the big fucking action moments and shit. Though they'll come and you'll be able to use a tank or something. Like, you can buy the soldiers from one of the groups, and they'll bring you into the mission on a tank, and get to skip like a whole little section of the gameplay that you otherwise would have had to go through and take out all the enemies that way. So, like, just cool little segments like that. Great characters. The decision making is 100% the star of the show with Alpha Protocol, though. Great video game. Number 1, Resident Evil 4, the remake. Played through it once, and I was like, yeah, I probably want to do this again. Booted it back up again, dove into it for a second time, played through it, and it's so good. The gameplay is so fucking good with Resident Evil 4. Like, every moment that I'm playing that damn thing, I'm just having an absolute blast. Swapping out my different weapons on the fly with the D-pad is such a humongous quality of life improvement over the first game. The guns feel so damn satisfying to use. Pulling out the sniper and taking out 4 or 5 dudes before you even get close to the next area of combat. Just the story improvements are really, really strong. Having a much deeper understanding of who Luis is, and seeing why he feels so remorseful, and then why he is so inclined to help you. Like, really good, strong improvements across the board. Obviously, the moving and shooting. Obviously, the parrying with the knife. I don't want to spoil anything, but I'll say the second to last boss fight is so damn good, relying on everything, all of your faculties, all of your abilities, strategizing, up close, close quarter combat, like, kind of leaning into the horror in one element of being in the pitch black dark, and you just hear the footsteps pop up behind you, and all you can see in front of you is what your flashlight is shining on. And, like, it just has all of the elements, long distance combat with your sniper, and it's so good. And it takes like probably 15 minutes to finish that boss fight. It's so long, but each moment of it is so strong. And yeah, that's a great moment of the game. Just easily, after playing it a second time, easily Resident Evil 4 Remake is my game of the year for 2023 so far. It's fucking incredible. So those are the 6 games that I played in March, ranked, and RE4 is far and away number 1. It's absolutely excellent. All right, so how about now we dive into some news, this week's news, and we got quite a bit of it. So let's go ahead and get this thing cracking here, and we'll start it off with one that's a little bit of a bummer. E3 has officially been canceled for 2023, and the ESA said in an interview with GamesIndustry.biz that like they didn't really confirm or deny their plans for an E3 in 2024. I got to be honest. I think that this is like the nail in the coffin. E3 2020, and it's not the nail in the coffin. Let me take that back. This is like the mold growing along the sides of the fucking decomposing, decaying corpse. Like it's E3 has been dying since Sony pulled out in 2019, 2018 or 2019. The last year that Sony was there, the year after that, E3 kind of became a bit of a mess. And then, of course, the pandemic didn't help things at all. But then you had, like, I think the 2021 E3 was the one that they did, like, the digital showcases and shit. That was abysmal, man. Absolutely abysmal. And it's just... It's been slowly dying and slowly losing its relevance over time. And that sucks because I do have a ton of nostalgia for E3 and, you know, sitting around with some buddies and waiting for that Sony press conference and waiting for that Xbox press conference and waiting for that Nintendo press conference. Like, that shit was so fun to see the new games pop up and, you know, the live component of seeing if anyone would slip up, if the game would actually run, if they were playing it in live time, if the game would actually run, if there'd be any big blunders or any big presentation blunders. And it was just, there were so many iconic moments at E3. But I'm gonna be honest. There have been showcases post E3 that, or I guess I should say outside of E3 lately in the past like couple years, that rival anything that E3 has ever had, any showcase that has ever been at E3. You know, like that 2021 PlayStation, or was it 2020, 2021? The one that had Knights of the Old Republic that debuted, the remake of Knights of the Old Republic that debuted for that PlayStation showcase. And Marvel's Wolverine, or Insomniac's Wolverine, and Insomniac's Spider-Man 2, and I think that was the first time we ever saw God of War Ragnarok gameplay. Like, that was an excellent showcase that is on par with anything we ever saw at E3. And like, you look at Xbox's 2021, which was technically associated with E3, but they can do those showcases without E3. Like, it's not going to hurt them at all to not be at E3. And I understand a lot of the press and the media can be bummed out about this because they're, you know, losing access to like some of those preview events, and that drives a ton of traffic to their websites and to their YouTubes and all that shit. And I get that. That does suck. But in terms of like us, just the general public who watches these events to learn more about upcoming games and to get hyped and to have those big, like, shocking moments, I just, you look at Keighley's Game Awards last year. Like, the big titles debuting there. Judas and Death Stranding 2 and like that's a damn good Game Awards. That was like Hades 2. You know, that was a great Game Awards that is on par with a lot of the best ever E3 showcases. And so it's like, I don't know if us, the general public, I don't know if we're really going to Well, you know what? It really depends on what replaces E3. And I know Keeley is talking about June 8th. He's going to have his Summer Games Fest, like, big event. That's really the key. What's going to replace E3? If it's going to be, this prolonged, like, 2-month, stretched out, bloated thing where we get a little bit of info every day on new games, then yeah, it'll be a bummer to not have E3 of that condensed, boiled down, like, big showcases where you can get a lot of info about the biggest games in the span of a couple days. Because I think that's what we want, or at least that's what I want. I want to have that Super Bowl of games. I want to have that WrestleMania. When WrestleMania rolls around, it's like one big week of games, one big weekend of games. The Super Bowl, one big weekend that's all about, or I should say, when WrestleMania rolls around, it's one big week talking specifically. Everything is revolving around wrestling. When the Super Bowl rolls around that weekend, everything is about football. And with E3, it really did feel like that. So that's the big thing that will be missing without E3 around, unless if this showcase, this June 8th showcase that Keeley puts on, is taking like the biggest shit from the third parties. Because, Xbox, they have their first party stuff covered. They're going to have their big showcases with first party. PlayStation's going to have their big showcases with their first party stuff. Nintendo's going to have their directs with their first party stuff. And it's the third parties who are kind of in that weird territory where it's without E3, where are they going to land? Where are they going to end up? And as of right now, it's like either Gamescom or they're going to end up at the Game Awards. And if Keeley can have a big summer showcase for like the big heavy hitters on June 8th, where he, instead of Ubisoft having their ridiculous Ubisoft forwards, instead of Take-Two having their ridiculous press conferences and Capcom with their spotlights and shit, and you can still have those. But if I guess, once again, perfect scenario here would be if Keeley called up those third-party publishers and was like, look, Ubisoft, hit me with your Avatar trailer. Let me use it for this Summer Games Fest June 8th event. And, you can go to the Ubisoft forward later on to get more information about it, but I just want the quick sizzle, a little bit of gameplay. Let me show off that Avatar game for my Summer Games Fest big event. Go to Capcom. You got fucking Devil May Cry 6 lined up, a cinematic reveal trailer. Let me grab that. Go to Take-Two. You got probably not Grand Theft Auto, but let's say BioShock. You got the reboot of BioShock lined up. Let me get that. Let me get just a quick cinematic glimpse of that. You go to who else are we got Ubisoft, Capcom, EA with their EA Plays. EA, let me grab your new trailer for fucking the Dead Space 2 remake, and then boom, they are the new Iron Man game that EA Motive's working on, or the Respawn first-person shooter games that they supposedly have in development, the Respawn Star Wars first-person shooters that they supposedly have in development. So let me get like the big heavy hitters, pop those up at my Summer Games Fest, like one day showcase, and then it's a 2-hour thing, hour and 30 minutes, whatever it needs to be. Obviously you're going to have your ads and stuff rolling in there. Then you go to your AA's, you get some big stuff from the AA's. You go to your indies, you get some big stuff from the indies, and you got a full day of games where we can like all gather together, get hyped, and really show a spotlight on like the big upcoming stuff in the industry in that one day. And then if you want to have a full Summer Games Fest after that, stretched out over the course of a month or a couple weeks or whatever, it is what it is. But to have that big day where everything kind of stops and revolves around the world of gaming for a day, I think that's so crucial to getting more eyeballs on it, and just having a big event that we can all kind of gather around and just get excited for. It's hard to stay excited whenever you're drip fed little bits of information over the course of a couple months for a Summer Games Fest, like very prolonged thing. But I think Keeley, I just don't think that he is going to, when he's seeing the ESA stumbling and seeing E3 slowly start to melt away, like, I feel that dude, I feel like he is going to be on the ball and take advantage of their stumbling. You know, he, say what you will, the dude is definitely very passionate about video games and getting more eyeballs on video games. And he's been working in the industry since like the late 80s, I believe, like starting up his own fan websites. And then dude has been around and definitely has a passion, like a clear passion for this industry. So if everything just goes to if the whole gaming world is in Keighley's hands, like, you know, it is what it is. I don't think that's bad hands for the big press conference showcase events to be in the hands of. Like, I think he's done a damn good job. Look at what the Game Awards are doing. Like, there's been some blunders and some not so great Game Awards showcases, but last year was fucking excellent. I think 2020 or 2021 was a fucking excellent showcase as well. There's been some fantastic Game Awards, and I have to believe if he started up a big showcase for a E3 replacement and just like one big event, I feel like he would fucking, I feel like he has the connections, he has the know-how to put together a show like that. Like, I think it'll probably be a good replacement for E3. And I'm not wishing for the death of E3 if it still comes back and it rolls back around. Like, I don't think there is anything wrong with having two, but the way E3 has been going, like, there's no way I could tune in to another repeat of the 2021 one, where you're tuning in for Capcom to announce nothing. You're tuning in to Take-Two to literally just hear people talking, or you're tuning in to like that shit was abysmal, absolutely abysmal. So I really do hope that this condensed, just one focused showcase that Keighley's putting together, I hope that does take off and it is like a valuable replacement for E3. So it's a bummer that E3 is canceled, but I think I'm confident with the direction that it seems to be going with this one event that Keighley's putting together. So we'll see. All right, so let's dive into another kind of negative story here, and then we'll close off the episode with a few fun, positive news stories to dive into. So PSVR 2 seems to be in some serious trouble here. According to a research firm, International Data Corporation, they estimate 270,000 headsets have been sold. And IDC's Vice President of Data and Analytics, Francisco Geronimo, told the publication, "I suspect a price cut on the PSVR 2 will be needed to avoid complete disaster of their new product." That's not good. That is not good at all. Look, and if you're looking at the future of PSVR 2 and you know that there's 270,000 headsets that have been sold, it's like that makes it even more difficult to ask developers to develop for this thing, where it's like, why are we going to develop something for this headset and just send it out into the ether and then just send it off to die? You know, like, there's the user base isn't there to play our games if we're developing exclusively for this headset. Now, you know, there's a bunch of stuff that can be developed for VR in general, and PlayStation gets access to it, and it's fine if you just if you pay to buy a VR headset and you just choose PSVR 2 because you already got the you know, you want to be in the PlayStation ecosystem, you already have the PS5. I get that, and I'm not trying to rain on anyone's parade here who is like a PSVR 2 enthusiast, but I just want to know who asked for this. Who really wanted this? Is it just like the innovation in technology and like, is it something that Sony felt was necessary to keep up with the technology to you know, improve the PSVR 1 in case this thing ever does become a hit? They have the technology in place to adjust and to, you know, take advantage of that. I just don't know why this thing was made in the first place. Like, I don't think PSVR 1 was a humongous hit. And this is like a catastrophic failure. At this point, at least, according to this data. And, who knew? You launch this headset with one game that is exclusive to this headset with Call of the Mountain, one game that was developed for this headset. And then, you got Resident Evil 8, but you also have Resident Evil 8 on your PlayStation 5. You have Gran Turismo 7, but you also have that on your PS5, and I get it. These experiences are different, and they are valuable in their own right, and it's a different experience on VR. I get that. But it's just like, what is compelling someone to go out and spend another $500 after they already bought a $500 console that is required to use this $500 headset? So you don't even have like the VR specific enthusiast crowd who can just pick up the console and attach like use the PC with the console or just have the headset. You don't even have that audience to rely on buying this headset. So it's like, I just don't get it. I don't get it. I don't know who this thing was for. And I just don't see any sort of longevity with this thing if it's not selling, because why the hell would developers develop for it unless they're getting paid to develop for it? And if that's the case, Sony buys out a bunch of developers to work exclusively for PSVR 2, because I think that's the only way this thing becomes more tantalizing is if there's games that are exclusive for this headset. That's a serious investment, over $1,000. It's just, it's not looking good. It's not looking good. I expect this to probably be the last VR endeavor for Sony, because I imagine this thing was incredibly expensive to develop. Supposedly, from everything I've heard, the tech on PSVR 2 is outstanding, but I just don't think the audience is there. And I'm going to be totally honest, I don't know if the audience is really there for VR in general. I got to speak for myself here. And once again, anytime I'm running my damn mouth, I'm speaking for myself. But for me, I have no interest in VR. I have interest in Half-Life Alyx, and I have interest in Horizon Call of the Mountain. But those are really the only two VR games I even have the mildest, smallest amount of interest in. So yeah, I think this is probably it for PlayStation's little VR adventure. All right, so that's enough of the negative news for today. Let's talk about some good shit. And this is one thing that I really, really want to dive into. I'm so excited to talk about this. I'm so excited for this news in general. PlayStation will reportedly hold a showcase, a summer showcase before Summer Games Fest. This is coming from Jeff Grubb, who has a history of being pretty accurate with this stuff. So I want to talk about what could potentially be there, make some predictions, a little speculation, and just kind of examining the landscape of a first-party Sony and then their third and second-party relations at this point. And just kind of talking about the state of Sony right now, because we don't really know a lot about their first-party endeavors currently, other than Factions 2, Insomniac Spider-Man 2, and Wolverine. That's kind of it on the first party front that we know of from Sony right now. So it's like, this could be Pandora's box for a showcase. This could be epic. Anything could pop out of this showcase, so I really do think that your expectations or your predictions can be as wild as they want to be with this, because we really don't know. This is the first time in the PlayStation ecosystem in years where it's been this unpredictable. So I think that alone is really damn exciting. So I'm just going to throw a bunch of fucking shit at the wall and see what sticks here. Obviously, I'm not saying I think all of these predictions are going to come true, or otherwise we'd have a 4-hour fucking showcase here. But I think we might be getting some good stuff from this showcase, if it is indeed true. So let's go ahead and kick this bad boy off. And obviously let's go ahead and do the easy thing. Spider-Man 2 will be there. obviously Spider-Man 2 is going to be at this showcase. We'll get a release date for it. If it is going to come out in September, which you got to assume it's going to come out in September with the Venom voice actor leaking that date. Anything can change, but if it's going to come out in September and this showcase is, let's say, early June or late May, then obviously this thing has to get a release date. And my big prediction for Spider-Man 2, and I've been saying this for a while, is that you'll get to play as Venom. I don't think that Insomniac's just going to go back to, okay, now you get to play as Spider-Man, or you get to play as Peter and Miles. Like, I think they're going to go one extra step with this being like their next big game. And they're talking about it's going to be huge. So Spider-Man 2 will obviously be at the showcase. Another one that I don't know, but I feel like would pop up, maybe even just for a cinematic glimpse, is Ghost of Tsushima 2. You know, with 2020, the first one released in 2020, it should be about time for an announcement from Sucker Punch. And I would assume that Tsushima 2 is where they're going. I'd be totally open to a brand new IP from Sucker Punch. I'd be totally open to a return to Infamous, but I have to imagine that Tsushima 2 is the direction that they're going with how big that game was. And it was just a critical hit, a commercial hit. Like, and then I think they're making a movie of the first game. So you have to imagine they're going to go back to that well. And I'm absolutely there for it. I loved the first game. I think I enjoy Infamous more just because I like the gameplay a little bit more in Infamous, but I'm totally down for some more Ghost of Tsushima. And the next one that I want to talk about is more of just staying in first party, but this is probably the biggest wild card, the biggest unknown for me, is what the fuck is Bluepoint doing? There was that talk about Bluepoint making their own IP, a brand new IP. Something about that just feels like I maybe that's true. Okay, maybe that's true. But something about Sony buying them after their entire history being dedicated to remakes, it's like, so they would buy them just to have them go off and make a brand new IP, which could end up being a humongous hit. But there was rumor with Andy Robinson from VGC saying that the Metal Gear Solid 3 remake would be releasing in 2024. And you look at Konami with Silent Hill 2 and that being exclusive to the PS5 or a timed exclusive, and you're like, well, shit. Is something in the works here? You know, is Konami and Sony, they got some fucking flirtatious relationship going on with exclusivity? Are they going to allow Bluepoint to remake Metal Gear Solid 3? And like, it just makes perfect sense. In my opinion, I would have to assume if anyone is remaking Metal Gear Solid 3, it would have to be someone with the esteem and the talent that Bluepoint has. Because Metal Gear Solid, that's one of the biggest franchises ever, and one of just the most beloved critical darlings of all time, and especially 3. So you're not going to hand that off to just anyone. So this is one that I don't know if I would predict it to pop up, but if it's going to release in 2024, then it would have to pop up sometime soon. Unless, like I said, unless it's not, and maybe Konami has their own, internal development going on for Metal Gear Solid 3, which I doubt, but I just feel like Bluepoint is the only, or at least one of the only teams I could think of to crank out a MGS3 remake. So I'll throw that at the wall. That'll be my wild card prediction. I think that MGS3 will be shown off and it'll be in development by Bluepoint. So yeah, that's my one big wild card there. And to get back on to a safer prediction here, we'll definitely see Stellar Blade. If that thing is going to release in 2023, which I believe the last trailer that they showed off a few months ago said it was going to release in 2023, we'll definitely see a little bit more on that. I don't even think we need to see much more on Stellar Blade 2. Looks damn good. The Bayonetta inspired kinetic action game. I don't think much more is needed with that game at all, but I think that if it's going to release in 2023, it'll absolutely be there. It'll absolutely get a release date, and I'm pumped for that. I love those style of games, so definitely down for that. Final Fantasy 16, of course, we'll get one more look at that. If the showcase is at the end of May or early June, we'll have just a little bit of time until FF16 drops. So we'll get one more, maybe just a quick look at gameplay or something like that. That's another one where we've seen a ton of it, and I don't really want to see much more of it. I don't want to see anything that'll spoil a big moment. I actually watched a little bit too much gameplay the other week. They had a big showcase at PAX, and I was a little bit bummed. And it wasn't even anything big. I didn't want to see like the environments and shit. That's something that's so weird about games for me, where like when I go off and I'm stumbling and just walking around throughout the world, stumbling upon some of those environments for the first time, that's like a special moment. Those are kind of the moments that get the goosebumps, man, when you see the scale of something for the first time. And it's like, that's so stupid, because you're like, oh, are you saying these teams can't show off their fucking environments in a trailer? Not really saying that, but it is something that some of the epic moments, the epic environments, I really want to see that for the first time in gameplay. That's a really nerdy complaint, but yeah, Final Fantasy 16, we'll definitely see one last look at that. Speaking on Konami, Silent Hill 2, that seems like an absolute lock. With the president or whatever, Bloober, saying that the game is essentially finished at this point, or it's getting close to wrapping up. You immediately hear that and you think, okay, well, October 2023, of course, go for a Halloween release. But Bloober sort of took back some of those statements, and then it kind of makes you think that the game might not be as far along as the president was hinting at. So maybe it'll be a 2024 launch, because if you look at, like, we did see a little bit of gameplay the first time it was revealed, but it wasn't a ton. So I'm expecting that it will show up at this showcase, but it'll just be a good 2-3 minute look at actual gameplay, this thing running in real time, and seeing what the game really is offering up. I don't think we'll the release date is the thing I'm not 100% sure about with Silent Hill 2. If it is going to launch in October, obviously it'll get that date announced at this showcase, but something about it just, and maybe it's just, not trying to be rude, I don't really trust Bloober 100%, so I don't know. I want this game to be a huge hit, but I'm going to say that it's a 2024 release. And then this is one I want to be wrong on. And then, yeah, I think we'll just leave it there. I think it'll be a 2024 window, and I'm not even sure if the date will be announced at all at the showcase. Here is this next one is I don't even know what to call this. It's more of just a hopeful wish more than anything, because I just don't see anything coming of this. The Knights of the Old Republic remake, with Aspire seemingly dropping the ball with that, and fucking, what's the team, the team that did The Witcher 3 port for the Switch, fucking damn, it's escaping my brain, but the team that did the port for the Switch Witcher 3 version, they are now heading up development on Knights of the Old Republic, the remake. And that maybe leaves you a little bit more optimistic, but supposedly that the game was just not in a state that was like anywhere near acceptable. And yeah, I don't know. I have a hard time seeing this game releasing ever, honestly. And I hope, this is one I desperately hope I'm wrong on, because all the information that I heard on it sounded tremendous, man. More of a focus on real-time combat and and you know, still keeping the story intact with the narrative and the decisions. Like, it just sounded so promising. But you know, some things can't be salvaged, and the way they were describing it was like, it sounded horrendous, man. Like, just totally unfunctional and totally unacceptable. Like, some of the terms that were being thrown around was like, god damn. But I'm hoping for the best on that one, because that's like, when I saw that game pop up at that 2021 showcase, that 2021 PlayStation showcase, I was like, holy shit, that is a crazy get. Just the fact, obviously, of snatching that from Xbox's hands, snatching that from Microsoft's hands. It's like, that is a dirty, dirty move. But god damn, dude, there's really no game. There's few games that I can think of that I would want remade more than that. But yeah, I hope to God I'm wrong on my prediction that we don't see it, and I hope to God I'm wrong on my prediction that we may never see it. And I really hope this thing pops up at the showcase and we actually see some gameplay, and it's like a big wow, like shocking moment. But I wouldn't bet the mortgage on that one. Next up, Rise of the Ronin. And if this is still in the first trailer, I believe they said it was a 2024 release date. If this is still 2024, you got to assume we're seeing that. It is weird with Ghost of Tsushima and Rise of the Ronin popping up at the same showcase. I don't know if that would maybe throw a wrench into things, or like, I could see one or the other popping up. I don't think both would really make sense to be shown off at the same showcase. I mean, maybe there is a humongous tonal shift for Rise of the Ronin that I'm not expecting, but they just look very, very similar to one another. Like visually and mechanically, like, it looks very, very similar. But you know, with Team Ninja being the developer behind Rise of the Ronin, obviously that leaves me a little bit wondering about the gameplay. I believe they talked about wanting to make it a little bit more accessible than the previous games and try to like go for a big like a real big hit with Rise of the Ronin. So maybe, like, I'm just not a fan of the Souls inspiration from games. So if this is going to be that, I'll probably check out on it. But if it's going to be more of a, you know, third person action adventure game with some Tsushima inspired combat and some cool exploration like they showed off in the trailer, absolutely down for Rise of the Ronin. So I do think we'll see it. I think we're actually a lot more likely to see something like Rise of the Ronin than something like Ghost of Tsushima 2. But it's just like, timing wise, 2020 being Tsushima's release, you're talking about probably, if it was shown off here mid 2023, talking about probably not releasing it until 2025. So a 5-year development cycle, that's actually not even all that long. So maybe Tsushima would pop up next year and this will be Rise of the Ronin's year. Yeah, we'll do that. We'll change up my prediction there. I think Tsushima will be for next year's big PlayStation showcase or state of play or whatever they end up doing, and Rise of the Ronin will be here at this showcase with a 2020. See, yeah, I think Rise of Ronin could hit that 2024 date. They just threw it out as like a window, I believe, in the first trailer. So late 2024 Rise of the Ronin, mid to late 2025 Tsushima, or 2026 Tsushima. I think that's reasonable enough. Next up, let's talk about Little Devil Inside. And what the fuck happened there? If I'm not mistaken, that was supposed to be exclusive to PlayStation. I don't know what type of deal they struck up there, or what really happened or went wrong, but that game just disappeared. And Little Devil Inside looked to be like the most ambitious indie game I'd ever seen in my fucking life. That was crazy, seeing that game and seeing the different the location diversity and the different gameplay mechanics they had going on. Like, that was a stunning little sizzle of a indie trailer, and I just don't know what happened to it, because it looked like they had a ton of content ready made for that game. So I hope it pops its head back up. I hope we see a little bit more of it. That's one where I'm like, I don't even know. It's been a while since we've seen anything on it. And that game has been in development for a hot minute, but it looked like they were cooking up something so special, something I really can't compare to anything else, which is so rare, you know, when you play so many games and you see the similarities between so many games. Like, that looks solely unique and individual. And yeah, I hope we do see Little Devil Inside at least at some point again. I'm not saying maybe not this showcase, but I do hope it pops back up and gets a release date that's sometime soon. And yeah, I think that game has a lot of promise based off of what we saw. So closing off there, let's segue over to the live service initiative, Sony's live service initiative that we've been hearing a lot about. And unfortunately, I think Sony's probably about 4 or 5 years too late to get into the live service bandwagon there, but they are kicking it off. And you look at, once again, talking about first party, Sony Bend is one that you look at that horde mechanic that was developed in Days Gone and you go, oh, Jesus. Like, I could easily see that being transitioned over to a live service game where it's like a team-based service game where you're taking out hordes of something, whether it be zombies or just hordes of different, enemy types. And then they already have all those assets and the knowledge of developing an open world from their work on Days Gone. You know, a lot of the team has left, but it's just, I would be very surprised to see their new game come out and not be a live service open world title that has very similar horde mechanics in it. So I'm predicting that Sony Bend's new game will be a live service open world shooter where you're taking out hordes of something. Not saying zombies per se, but hordes of something. So that was, what was that, 2019? So yeah, it's definitely time to see something from Sony Bend. So I would say that's a fairly safe-ish prediction. They do have historically taken a long time to develop their games, so you got to throw that into the picture, take that into account. Also, staying first party, London Studio. We know that they're making a live service game. Their last game was Blood and Truth, the VR title, and in my opinion, Sony should have used this team to in that PS2 era to really like fund the shit out of this team to make a Grand Theft Auto competitor. They used them for the Getaway and the PS2 era, and then the Gangs of London for the PSP. And so they were already kind of leaning in that direction. It would have been cool to see, because GTA really hasn't gone there yet with a big London sprawling open world. Like, I think that was a big missed opportunity for Sony to not have their own first party GTA IP in-house. And I think London Studio at that time would have been the team to crank that out. And now it's, they're going in a totally different direction with this new IP, this new live service IP. So I think that's a bummer, because you're looking at GTA 5's service components, the live service aspects of that. It's like, shit, dude, you had a really solid single player narrative. And then on top of it, you had this cash cow, this evergreen cash cow providing you money for life with the live service elements in GTA 5. So it's, a missed opportunity, I would say, but you can't see the future. So London Studios' new live service game, I think that's a possibility of being shown off for sure. The Deviation game, their new first-person shooter, that I'm guessing Sony is going to try to use that to prepare for the possibility in 10 years of not having Call of Duty on their platform, which I don't think that will ever happen. But this Deviation game is supposedly going to be the Sony's answer to their first-person shooter absence. We'll see on that. Media Molecule. I think that Media Molecule definitely needs to show something. I know that they've been focused on their work with Dreams and keeping that running and keeping that alive and growing. And the thing with that is this little the GDC conferences where we saw the evolution of Fortnite and the creation tools there, and Epic giving the creators 40% of the money, and the possibilities that were able to be realized inside of Fortnite. It's like, god damn, man, that's and then, you know, the accessibility of Unreal Engine 5 now, and then fucking everywhere, that new game that's being headed up by Leslie Benzies, the from GTA 5, the dude who really like championed Grand Theft Auto Online, and they're implementing in you know, creation tools. And Dreams was definitely ahead of its time, but I think that time is probably unfortunately past, and there's new things on the horizon that are seemingly a little bit more tantalizing to people, and it's a bummer, you know. But I do think that I do think Media Molecule probably needs to I'm not saying sunset Dreams, but take a team and move it on to something else as well. So I would hope that would be a possibility. I don't really know internally, like, their thoughts on Dreams. I don't know if that's something they're going to continue along with forever and stick with that forever, and that be the main bread and butter. But you have to imagine that there's some people at that team are itching to create something new, because I think Dreams was Dreams 2018? I know it was in development forever. I think it came out 2018, 2019. It came out a good while ago. And yeah, it just seems that there's a lot of competition in that market that may be a little bit more appealing to the mass audience. So yeah, Media Molecule, we'll probably see some PSVR 2 shit, you know, some that'll be where people get up and take a bathroom break for the PSVR 2. I'm just playing once again. The enthusiasts out there, don't beat me up. I know there's a lot of people who love their PSVR 2, but we'll get some PSVR 2 announcements of some sort. I'm sure it'll be things that have already existed for a while that come over to PSVR 2. If Half-Life Alyx pops up, hey, I might have to break out the credit card to grab me a PSVR 2. I don't think that could even do it at this point, honestly. I just don't, with those reports, and not to keep going back to this, but with those reports of this thing just not selling, like, that pretty much tells me what I need to know, that there's going to be very little to no development for this thing in the future. I seriously doubt we're going to get, like, really high quality PSVR 2 exclusives or anything like that. So I don't know. Regardless, let's move on from PSVR 2. I don't want to sit here and spew more negatives out there about PSVR 2. Pacific Drive. I think we will absolutely get a release date for Pacific Drive. This game looks incredible. The road-like, this team creating a game that is all about avoiding road hazards and crafting your fucking vehicle and going out into this world and getting parts to bring back to your garage to craft for your vehicle. And then just it's a big ass world that you're driving around in, and I don't really know what the point of it is. I don't know what your destination is. I don't know where you're going. I don't know what you're doing, but god damn it looks interesting. And talking about Little Devil Inside, of games on the horizon that it's just like nothing else I've ever seen, that's one of them. That's certainly one of them with Pacific Drive. So I think we'll absolutely get a release date for Pacific Drive. Now, for a big kind of show closer, FF7, the part 2, Rebirth, I could see that closing the show. They're talking about, 2020, what is it? What did they say? Holiday 2023? Or did they just said, I don't remember if they had like a specific year on it. They said this holiday. I don't remember. But they implied that it was going to be released in the holiday window, so either late 2023, early 2024, and that would kind of lead you to believe, if that's true, that we're gonna start the marketing campaign for that right after FF16 drops. So you kind of get ahead of that with this big showcase having millions of eyeballs on it. Just maybe a quick minute long look at gameplay, or a 2-minute look at a little bit of story, a little bit of gameplay. I don't know. If it is actually going to drop holiday of this year or early next year, early 2024, then I don't think that's a totally irrational prediction or expectation to see it there. So I I don't know though. I don't know. Do you have FF16 and FF7 at the same showcase? I feel like they've done that before though. So why not? I don't think it hurts anything. And the people, Final Fantasy 16 is going to be humongous, humongous. So having Final Fantasy 7 there alongside, it's not going to hurt anything. If anything, it might help get people more invested in one or the other. You know what I mean? So yeah, Uncharted. If the rumors of Uncharted going in this new direction with Nathan's daughter Cassie, if those are to be believed, then the thing about it is like, who is working on this game? That's the big question mark for me. And like I look around at their different studios and I'm honestly not too sure. Sony Ben did the Golden Abyss Vita game. But I look around at a lot of the other studios and you look at someone like London Studio and then it's like, well, they're working on their live service game. And it's like, who the hell could be doing this? And you're like, maybe Blue Point, but I kind of hope it's not Blue Point, if I'm being totally honest. Like, I really hope Blue Point is working on Metal Gear Solid 3. That's the thing I'm most curious on with this Uncharted game, because Naughty Dog said that they're not working on Uncharted anymore. So if it's true, if we are getting Uncharted, the thing that I'm the most interested in seeing is who is working on it. That's like the biggest question mark in general for me with Uncharted. But do I think we'll see it? Probably not. But it is something to keep in the back of your mind of like a potential big shocking announcement, because that's the thing with these showcases. You're looking for those big shocking announcements, and out of everything we've talked about here, there's look, if the showcase from where we're at now, from what I've talked about, if it was just that, it's all-time fucking greatest showcase ever. Beats anything from E3 ever, any PlayStation showcase ever. That's what I'm saying. We're just sitting here kind of speculating, analyzing, but when you're looking at the things I've talked about, there's really not, it's a show of straight up consistency, quality, great stuff, but not a lot of big shockers other than Tsushima, other than Nights of, well, yeah, there are quite a few big shockers that we're talking about here, but I think that Uncharted might be the biggest shocker, because some of those rumors seemed, I'm not saying unfounded, but it was just like, is that true? I could kind of see it being true, kind of see it being not true. Whereas a lot of these other things, it's like fairly credible and reliable. Like, I think we're gonna get MGS3 at some point. Not saying it's Blue Point, don't know about that, but we've already seen Knights of the Old Republic. If it popped back up after the big delay and the big fiasco with that, the debacle with that is shocking. But like a big unannounced shocking trailer, world premiere, if you will, Uncharted would be a big one, a really, really big one. So yeah, even just a quick 30-second shot of seeing Cassie jump around in a cinematic glimpse, or even a character reveal trailer to see her and Drake standing together, like that would be huge. Japan studio, that is definitely an interesting one. I don't think they've put out a game since Knack 2, which would have been 2016 or so. And like I the PS3 era with stuff like Puppeteer, I believe, was Japan Studio, and Folklore, which wasn't Japan Studio, but those type of exclusive, like, weird one-off games, I feel like Japan Studio was really heading a lot of that up, and it's just a bummer to not see that anymore. So I think that would be, once again, talking about a big shock. This would be more for like the core audience. That would be a big one where people, I think, would just get hyped to see something really unique, a different visual language, a different art style, direction, mechanics. Like I just think that they would do something that is so unique, and I feel like that would be a great kind of shot in the arm for this showcase, to just have something that truly stands out from everything else. So I'd love to see that. Do I expect it? Probably not, but it's one that I would definitely love to see. I got a lot of shit left here, so let's go ahead and rapid fire through these. Death Stranded 2, that'll 100% be there if I don't think they put a release date on it, so maybe it wouldn't be there. But I think that's a fairly safe assumption with it being associated with PlayStation and published by PlayStation and being exclusive to PS5. You would think just a small update for Death Stranding 2 would be very, very likely. Team Asobi with Astrobot. I don't know if they're doing another Astrobot, but it's probably somewhere about time. I know they had the launch title with the PlayStation 5, which was, packed into the system. But I think probably about time to see something from them, even if it's a couple years away from release. Haven, Jade Raymond's new studio. We're thinking that it's a live service title or something innovative in the tech space, so like maybe a Sims like game or something like that. But yeah, they were bought last year or 2 years ago, so it may be a little bit early to see something from them, but one to really keep your eye on. I'm really curious about just what they're creating. There's been a lot of talk about the tech that they're developing at Haven, so I'm interested in seeing what is that tech that people are speaking of, and what really are we going to be looking at with their new title, or if they're even developing a new title. Like what exactly do they have cooking is something I'm really curious about. Firesprite is supposedly working on a new exclusive PlayStation 5 horror title. And well, I honestly don't know, because they've been mainly a VR team in the past. So I wouldn't be surprised if this is going to be like one of the very few, first party kind of VR games out of the PlayStation ecosystem for the next coming years. But I mean, they've made solid VR shit in the past with Persistence and Horizon, the Call of the Mountain. They lit up Horizon Call of the Mountain. So I would much rather see them make a console horror game. I think that'd be great to just see Sony in the console space for horror. Like, they really don't have anything. They had Days Gone and The Last of Us, but to see something that leans a lot more into the horror than the action adventure elements, I think would be a much needed, or I should just say a welcome addition to the first party lineup for PlayStation. So yeah, Pixel Opus is another big one, where they are the team behind Concrete Genie, and Concrete Genie, that came out a while ago. So you're looking at like 2019 or so with Concrete Genie. It's probably right about time to see their new game. There was a lot of rumor of Pixel Opus being making a Sly Cooper title. And I don't know if there's any validity to that at all, if that's all just conjecture and just bullshit. But talking about big shocking announcements, that would be a fucking great one to get there. And looking the kind of what I've noticed with the KOTOR remakes popping up, and a lot of these remakes, man, the Resident, I'll never forget talking about big E3 moments. Resident Evil 2 being revealed for the first time was unbelievably shocking. I was just so pumped when I saw that for the first time with the rat and seeing Leon for the first, like, that was an epic fucking trailer. So these remakes, they hold a lot of weight, in people's hearts with the nostalgia and just the love that people have for some of these titles. And when they do pop up at showcases, that's really one of the big things that raises the fucking roof. It really is, because there's already that built-in connection there. So looking and thinking about what could be remade and could be announced to be like exclusive to PlayStation or timed exclusivity, like by looking at their past, you got to look at things like Legacy of Kain that Embracer just bought, and they're supposedly really wanting to go back to that IP and revive it or remake it in some fashion. That, I think that would get humongous buzz from like the core audience. I don't know. I actually do think that in this new era of these kind of survival horror-ish titles popping back up onto the scene, and with Legacy of Kain having horror I would say horror influence in there, that would be a great one to have in the rotation. You know, a little bit less horror, but some horror vibes in there. A little bit more of a hack and slash action adventure title, but definitely some horror elements fused into that, and then kind of staying in that territory. If say Resident Evil goes on a little bit of a hiatus, if we don't go straight to either Code Veronica or 5, and we take a little bit of a left turn and go off to Dino Crisis, that's a fucking humongous remake to get on your platform. And then that would be one where, like, who gives a shit about exclusivity or any kind. I don't give a fuck about any of that shit, because, you know, I have an Xbox, I have a PlayStation, wherever it's going to be, I'm gonna play it. But a Dino Crisis reveal, that would be fucking humongous for any showcase. You know, I think people are clamoring for that. I think Capcom would be really surprised to drop Dino Crisis and see how well that thing sells. I think that if they do release a Dino Crisis game, I think it's going to compete with Resident Evil in terms of millions and millions of sales. And then Resident Evil 4, they just announced sold like 3 million copies in 2 days. And I think there's goodwill that is building up with Capcom, or already has built up with Capcom, where if they drop something like this that is beloved by the fan base that played it back in the 90s, I think it's going to sell. I'm not saying 3 mil in 2 days, but similarly close. And it's just been building up. This anticipation for a Dino Crisis game has been building up. And then, yeah, if that's a surprise announcement, that's a just like show ending surprise announcement, which, you know, we're here in dreamland fucking with all these wild ass predictions. There's a lot of show ending surprise announcements, but Dino Crisis would be a absolute juggernaut, and one for me personally, just to close off. I know this will never happen because Square Enix is a strange company, but Parasite Eve, I don't understand how Square Enix is looking at the money that Resident Evil's making and the hype that Silent Hill 2 remake has generated, and not wanting a little piece of that survival horror pie. You know, it's just so surprising to me. So surprising, especially with how great their remakes have been with Final Fantasy VII. Like, giving that treatment, not obviously you don't have to make it a fucking $200 million AAA 40, 500 part game, but a good 10-hour Parasite Eve with updated mechanics and real-time action and getting to explore a little bit of that city, like that would be fucking incredible. And having some voice acting in there, a great story with Parasite Eve, that'd be one that I think would get a huge pop as well. So just sort of throwing some things at the wall there. Obviously, not all of these are predictions, just some speculation, some observation of the state of Sony first party and some of their second party and third party working relationships. So, yeah, and Square Enix and Sony are fucking thick as thieves right now. So, pretty much everything they're dropping is either exclusive to PlayStation or has some sort of contractual obligation to Sony. So, a Parasite Eve reveal exclusive for PS5 would be next level epic, in my opinion. But those are my predictions for PlayStation's Summer Showcase, if it even happens. Who knows? Well, I shouldn't just say predictions. Predictions, observations, speculation, analysis, whatever the hell you want to call it. Just looking over what could potentially be there, what I would hope would be there. And let me know. Hit me in the comments. Let me know anything that I may have forgot that could pop up, or anything you would like to see pop up. But man, I think that's it. I had one more news story about... I had one more news story, and it was about the Resident Evil 4 remake selling 3 million copies in 2 days. So we already touched on that. So we'll go ahead and close the show up here with that. Excited to watch some damn Wrestlemania tonight. Really, really pumped. Gonna grab some good food, watch some Wrestlemania, chill. Already had a damn good workout this morning. That's the best feeling in the world. You wake up early and you just get that workout, get it done, you get it knocked out, and it's like the rest of the day you just have to fuck off and eat bad food and completely just ruin any of the positive effects that your workout may have had. Nothing like self-sabotage, my friends. Appreciate you. See you guys soon. Take it easy. Hope you have a good one. Hit me in the comments. Let me know if you enjoyed the show. Rate, review, subscribe, like, post notification bell icon. Share it with a buddy. I don't know. Do whatever you want. Appreciate you for tuning in. See you guys soon. Goodbye.